It's posted in the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief period of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, and whether you're speaking in favor or opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to the adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. Will the clerk please call the first item of business?
On today's agenda, first we have an announcement. In addition to having our public comment in the council chambers, there will be a webinar that will be available for public comment for the City Council meeting held on July 20th, 2020. Anyone who wishes to testify on the webinar, you must register with the City Clerk's office to participate. Please contact our office at 402-441-7436 or by our email at cityclerk@lincoln.ne.gov. Please keep in mind that the city clerk must be notified by 12 noon that day of the meeting in order to register. Provide your name, address, email address, and contact number. Our first item on our agenda today is our consent items, sections 1 through 2.
Is anyone wishing to address any item on our consent agenda? If so, at this time. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move adoption of all the items on the consent agenda with the exception of item 1A. I would move for the removal of that item since Mr. Cervantes has withdrawn his application for appointment to the mayor, for appointment to the Lincoln-Lancaster County Planning Commission. I would move adoption of all the items with the removal of item 1A.
Second?
Been moved and seconded by Councilwoman Washington that we approve everything on the consent item except for item 1A, which will be removed. Any other comments or questions by council members? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Washington?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Rabel?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Good.
We do have
Yes.
one motion that I would request for. It would be for item 2C.
I'm going to move that we suspend the rules for item 2C and address that issue today with hearing and a vote, because it's a liquor-related issue that we've already set a precedent and standard for these items.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we vote on 2C for the second reading. Yes.
We do first and second reading
First and
together.
second reading.
So, and we'll just do that during the liquor section.
Okay, and Chair McGinnis, I have a question. I noticed that there is another application of Lancaster County for Agricultural Society in 4A. Are they the same? Are they related? 4I? Did I say 4I? Yeah.
You said 4A.
4I. I guess
4I.
could I get a
No,
clarification?
those are two different.
Can we have a clarification? Thank
Those
you.
are two different items.
Well, it's asking for, in 2C, is asking for an outdoor area, and then it's saying the entire grounds, so.
I can
Correct.
explain.
Okay.
Tanya Peters, Assistant City Attorney. We met with the Event Center last week to talk to them about their addition and their plans. And their original plans were not going to work out to license the entire area. So we suggested doing a dine-out application for an area that they held the Garth Brooks drive-in movie. They're going to do some other movie events. So we're going to, so 2C is just the dine-out Lincoln program for that parking lot that they've been using or they want to use. And then when we get to 4I, you're going to hear me come forward and ask that on behalf of the applicant to give them a 2 weeks continuance. And we're going to see a modified version of their application for, which will be the outdoor arena, the rodeo arena part. And we'll see that in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you
Yep.
very
Okay.
much.
So we're going to take on 2C at this moment.
Well, as part of the liquor license, liquor applications.
Okay. Is that agreeable?
Agreeable. Okay, that will end our consent agenda. Our next item on our agenda would be Section 4, Public Hearing Liquor Resolutions. I'll call items 4A and 4B together. 4A is application of Hunky Dory LLC doing business as Royal Grove for the Class C liquor license and the related manager application of Eli T. Murdoch at 340 West Cornhusker Highway.
Thank you.
I have to give you an oath. So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Your name and,
My name is Eli Murdoch. My address is 1521 Sunset Road in Lincoln, Nebraska.
okay? And you're applying as a manager for the Hunky Dory?
Yes, for Hunky Dory LLC, DBA as the Royal Grove.
Okay. You have anything else you'd like to say at this point?
I don't.
Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman Washington.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mr. Murdoch, how long have you been in the entertainment business? And it looks like you might own another establishment as well.
I do, yeah. Total, I've been in the entertainment business since my early 20s, but in the ownership side of venue and bar business, I've been in that for 7 years. I have another establishment in Nebraska City called Dinny Moore's Bar that I've owned since 2017.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else would like to come up and speak on this item? Seeing none, let's move on.
Our next item, I'll call items 4C and 4D together. It's the application of Old Chicago Tap Room 2 LLC doing business as Old Chicago Pizza and Tap Room for a Class CG and the related manager application of Terrence A. Powers at 2918 Pine Lake Road, Unit J. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Jessica Greenwald, 121 South 13th Street, attorney for the applicant. I am here to answer any questions you may have. This one's pretty straightforward. So,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
Has the applicant actually completed the alcohol management training?
Yes, they've been the manager on the previous Old Chicago liquor license, so they have completed.
Okay, I thought I'd seen noted they were taking it on July 9th, and I wanted to. make
Oh,
certain.
yes, they have completed it.
thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Greenwald? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to come forward at this time on this item? Okay, seeing none, let's move on.
I'll be calling items 4E through 4G together. We have application of Granite City Inc. doing business as Granite City Food and Brewery for a Class CK liquor license, along with the Class L liquor license, and the related manager application of Shane T. Bauer at 6200 O Street.
Hello.
Hello.
Give you the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you'd like to say at this time?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Need to introduce yourself, please.
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm Shane Bauer, 5542 Adams Street here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Bauer? Yes, Ms. Washington.
I must be feeling very talkative today. I don't have a
take
question,
your
but I
minute.
do have a thank you. Thank you for opening up Granite City, if you had any part of that, and providing lunches for school children. It was really appreciative.
Absolutely, it was our pleasure.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you for coming down.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other questions, or anybody else would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, let's move on.
Next item is item 4H, application of DL Cole Inc., doing business as Isles Pub and Pizza, for an addition of an indoor area measuring approximately 20 feet by 40 feet and an outdoor area measuring approximately 25 feet by 25 feet at 6232 Havelock Ave. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
David Cole, C-O-L-E, 6232 Havelock Avenue, Isles Pub and Pizza. Just here to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cole?
Ms.
Yes.
Washington does, I'm sure.
No, we're going to go this way now. Councilwoman Rabel.
Hi, Jane.
Well, hi, will you be serving the amazing pizza that you normally serve in this new section?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I had one quick question. This outdoor dining area, is this in the back?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, north
out
side.
the back door. Okay. A little more shade back there. Any other questions for Mr. Cole? Thank you for coming down. Does anybody else would like to come forward on item 4H? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to 4I.
Item 4I is the application of Lancaster County Agricultural Society, Inc., doing business as Lancaster Event Center, for an addition of its entire grounds, excluding the parking lot, measuring approximately 127 acres at 4100 North 84th Street.
Would you like to come forward?
Again, Tanya Peters, Assistant City Attorney. On behalf of the applicant, we're just asking for a 2-week continuance. They will come back with an amended plan, and you'll have an amended substitute resolution to approve. If there's any questions.
And you want to talk about 2C at all?
2C, on the dining app.
Yep.
Other than that, this is just a temporary addition to their liquor license to allow them to do some outdoor events. There's a number of different movies and concert series that are occurring by across the country, and this gives them an opportunity to do some last minute ones without having to come and apply for multiple SDLs. So this will be in place until September 30th, assuming that we will have either a directed health measure or some kind of recommend guidance on spacing, which I'm going to assume that we're going to have until September 30th.
Okay,
And then, like I said, this one will just be a reduced plan, so it won't cover the campers, the camping lots, and it'll just be for the outdoor arena and concession, which happens to just to be adjacent to the area that you're seeing in 2C, but it is actually a different area, and it's under construction right now. Any other questions?
okay. All right, seeing none, you want to make the motion?
I will move approval of items 4A through H and item 2C.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve items 4A through H and item 2C.
Could you repeat
Any other
who seconded?
questions?
Councilwoman Raybold, seconded.
Oh,
Thank you.
seconded. Been moved and seconded. Any other questions? Do we understand that we're moving what we're doing? Looks like everybody's nodding yes. Please call the roll.
Rabel,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move a 2-week delay as requested on item 4I for hearing and action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Tammy. Oh,
Anybody?
Councilperson Rabel. With these masks, it's hard to.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we do a 2-week delay on 4I. Any other questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Okay, that ends our liquor items. Move on to section 5, public hearing resolutions. Item 5A is approving the transfer of funds from special assessment funds to the bond and interest fund in the amount not to exceed $1,300,000.
Yes. Mr. Kaufman?
Good afternoon. So I've got an item before you today. Part of the mayor's budget included a resolution, a reduction in debt service payments for general obligation bonds. And we did that by assuming that we would transfer some money out of the special assessment fund to pay off the 2011 refunding bonds. Retiring the bonds early will save approximately $534,000 a year in debt payments. And those are funded through property tax. So part of the budget proposal was to shift the savings from the payments over to the general fund to help support ongoing operations and services in the general fund. On June 8th, the council approved the refunding of that 2011 bond. So this is, really the practice of allowing me to transfer those funds over to the bond and interest fund, then to repay off that debt. We've got a conditional call out there for, I think, July 24th to pay off the bonds, conditioned on approval of this transfer from the special assessment fund.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Director Kaufman? I did. And those questions I think I had asked you earlier, the removal of 1.3 million from the special assessments revolving fund, revolving special assessments fund. What does that put a balance to, or are we taking most of the money out of it?
So right now, I think the balance was about 1.8 million at the end of May. So that would transfer, a large portion of that cash out. However, we have bonds outstanding, I think, till 2031, but on an annual basis, we receive a number of funds from the county treasurer. We believe that we'll be made whole with the special assessments that are continuing to be paid throughout the remaining of those bonds, and this is kind of the surplus cash that's sitting there available.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is item 5B, approving and adopting the Lower Platte South NRD multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan for eligibility of federal disaster mitigation funds.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Higgins. I'm with the Watershed Management Division of Lincoln Transportation Utilities. I still have a hard time saying that. So anyway, we had a lot of disasters back in the 80s and 90s, and actually before that. And so the federal government passed the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. And what that said is that if you're going to want to receive federal aid for mitigation projects, you're going to need to come up with with a plan for it. And so the Lower Platte South has been helping us out for the last 2 of these. They're done every 5 years. And so they're redoing this one right now, and they work throughout all of their area for all of the communities and the counties within the Lower Platte South jurisdiction, including the city of Lincoln. And so what this is just, and it was put together by the Lower Platte South with JEO, and then we reviewed it. We had a lot of input into it in various departments of the city, including the emergency manager director. And so what's before you is just approving that portion of it. That's the city of Lincoln's portion of it. And so with that approval, that'll approve it for the next 5 years once FEMA approves it. And that way that if we have a disaster and one of those projects, that gets damaged or something like that is in that list, then that'll be available for hazard mitigation grant funds. And I've used this already on 3 or 4 projects in the past. So, with a 75% cost share, it's a pretty good deal. So if there's any questions.
Yes.
It's not really a question. I think this is one of the most fascinating reports I've read in the last 6 months.
I figured you'd like that.
I do. I just think it's fantastic, and I love how the Madrid fault earthquake is noted here 120 years ago. So thank you very much. I got to geek out completely on this one.
Okay.
I really appreciated that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from Mr. Higgins? Thank you for coming
thank
down.
you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else would like to come forward to speak on this item? 5B? Okay, seeing none, let's move on.
Item 5C, Comprehensive Plan Conformance 20008, application of the Urban Development Director to amend the Lincoln Center redevelopment plan to add the Block 65 redevelopment project as a new project area, to include a new approximately 15-story mixed-use residential building, the rehabilitation of the existing Sharp building, and a new public parking garage with ground floor active space on property generally located at 200 and 206 South 13th Street and 1318 and 1340 M Street between 13th and 14th M and N Streets.
Good afternoon, Dan Marvin, Urban Development. What you have before you today is a plan amendment to the downtown Lincoln redevelopment area. This would amend this plan to allow projects to move forward on this block and in the area. What you see is the hashed area, which would identify areas where tax increment financing could be used. The block here that's bounded, that Sony just read off, plus some additional entryway areas if there were some sidewalk crosswalkings or other areas that could be utilized tax increment financing. This is identified as 3 phases. Phase 1 would be the area that is identified for Block 65. It's a multi-story apartment building that would also provide its own parking within its footprint. Phase 2 is the existing Sharp building, and Phase 3 would be the area where the city could build a downtown parking garage. The estimate that we would build on our parking garage would be probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 stalls, but it has yet to be designed. It's several years off before we would get to building that particular facility. Got a couple of pictures. This would show what we don't have a name for this building yet, but this would be its orientation next to the Sharp building. So it's a rather large apartment building that could go in there, and then this would be a view looking to the southwest. So you'd be looking down 14th Street and looking down N Street at the same time. I think this would be in my opinion, this will be a transformational signature building for the downtown next to the Sharp building. Could do wonders for that area of the downtown, and certainly is a great opportunity. We're recommending to move forward. I see behind me John Badami from DLR Group is here too, so he may have a few words to say as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions for Director Marvin? I have one. All we're approving is the plan amendment. We're not approving these actual build-out facilities, are we?
As you point out, you're absolutely right. There are many bites at the apple on this process towards approval. What we have done is we have responded to an existing IFRP for the downtown by Argent, proposing to do a project here. In that process, we advertised that we had a project, and we advertised to other people to bring forward other proposals on that particular block. Then, after we had a committee get together and decide that this was a project we wanted to move forward with, then we create a plan amendment. The plan amendment just identifies an area where tax increment financing could occur. We have yet to bring to this body, and have not crafted yet, a redevelopment agreement and terms of conditions for the sale of this property. All of those things have yet to be worked out.
Any other questions from Director Marvin? Seeing none, anybody else would like to come forward and speak on behalf of this item?
Hi, John Badami, architect with DLR Group. I reside at 5909 Norman Boulevard in Lincoln. And here on behalf of Argent Group, the developer that couldn't be here today, but just on behalf of them and myself as an architect and a hometown guy in Lincoln, we couldn't be more excited about this project for downtown. As Dan had mentioned, we think this is going to be a catalyst project for south of O Street and help bring more density to support other businesses and retail for downtown. So if there's no other questions, I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and if not, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Badami? Seeing none, thank you for coming down. Anybody else would like to come forward and speak on item 5C? Seeing none, let's move on to voting.
Okay, we can call the vote. On 5A is approving the transfer of funds from Special Assessments Fund to the Bond and Interest Fund in the amount not to exceed $1.3 million, introduced by Schob.
So moved.
Second?
So moved and seconded by Councilperson Raybold. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5B is approving and adopting the Lower Platte South NRD multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan for eligibility of federal disaster mitigation funds, introduced by Schob.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilperson Schob and seconded by Councilwoman Washington. Any other comments, questions? This is a good thing.
Told your line.
Please call the roll.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5C, Comprehensive Plan Conformance 20008, application of Urban Development Director to amend the Lincoln Central redevelopment plan to add the Block 65 redevelopment project as a new project area to include a new approximately 15-story mixed-use residential building, the rehabilitation of existing Sharp building, and a new parking garage with ground floor active space on property generally located at 200 and 206 South 13th Street and 1318 and 1340 M Street, introduced by Schob.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Yes.
I'd like to mix it up and just say I really like this.
That is mixing it up.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to resolutions, first and second reading, 6A.
Item 6A is a resolution expressing the city's gratitude honoring the outstanding dedication of Jeff Kirkpatrick as city attorney by naming July 17th, 2020 as Jeff Kirkpatrick Day.
I'm going to move that we have the first reading and suspend our rules and have second reading with a vote today.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Councilperson Raybold that we do a first and second reading today. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions? Yes, Jane.
I would like the clerk to read the resolution out loud, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Whereas Jeff Kirkpatrick became the duly appointed city attorney for the city on June 1st, 2014, and has performed his duties with the utmost professionalism and care through the end of his appointment on July 20th, 2020. And whereas the City Council for City of Lincoln wishes to recognize the outstanding contributions to the city by Jeff Kirkpatrick as a city attorney, and whereas the council also wishes to express its sincere gratitude to Mr. Kirkpatrick for his nearly 10 years of total service in the city law department, including his 6 years as city attorney. And whereas council thanks Mr. Kirkpatrick for being a leader and role model to his team, as well as a good and faithful steward of city resources. And whereas to further express its appreciation of Mr. Kirkpatrick's work, the City Council would like to honor Mr. Kirkpatrick by naming July 17, 2020 as Jeff Kirkpatrick Day. Be it now resolved by the City Council of Lincoln, Nebraska, that July 17, 2020 is hereby declared and proclaimed to be Jeff Kirkpatrick Day in the City of Lincoln in appreciation of the hard work and his many outstanding contributions to the citizens of Lincoln.
Mr. Kirkpatrick, could you come forward?
We need a vote because there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
But we'd still like Mr. Kirkpatrick
He
to
needs
come forward.
but
Yeah, come
So
on.
we can properly acknowledge him and maybe embarrass him too.
Yeah.
We
Should
need to
we,
do the
we
vote.
will vote. Let's call the roll on this.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Just to be clear, that was only a motion to suspend the rules, not to vote on the resolution. Now we get to say things.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to say something.
All right.
Thank you. Good
Mhm.
job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate working with you.
I'm going to be brief because you've got a lot on your agenda, but let me just say that it has been a real pleasure and honor to be able to serve the city of Lincoln as I have for the last 9.5 years, and particularly because of the people that I've been able to work with. I've got some of the people from the law department here today. They are, it's a top-notch bunch, and I know some of you have an opportunity to work with them closely on some issues, but you don't get a chance to work on a daily basis with the lawyers or the staff. And I think what is often unappreciated is the quality of the prosecutors we have for the city, folks that have been there year after year, and I think it's particularly appropriate to recognize them this month when they are dealing with all the trials and the hearings that built up for 3 months where we were shut down. Of course, we're shut down for COVID, and they get to do it all in 1 month. But that's just it just shows the dedication and talent that we have for the city, and I've been able to be part of that team for 10 years, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you for all that you do, and I really appreciate having an opportunity to work with all of you and some of the outstanding council members that have served and have retired before anything happened to them. So thank you for this honor. I won't even take the time to ask what it's worth, whether a cup of coffee or anything, but it means a lot to me. It really does. Thank you.
Jean?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Jeff, because I know your role is a challenging one. Not only do you look out for your department and take on a lot of responsibilities with everything in your jurisdiction, you have to deal with us. And you have to deal with 7 people throwing in at you different pieces of legislation, asking you to craft it and rephrase it and make sure it's in compliance with all the current laws and regulations. And you do it with a lot of grace, and you don't judge. And that it was very appreciative of your years of service. And I personally have learned so much from you and your dedication to our city. And thank you for helping me become a better elected official by all the good advice, the great guidance that you have given, and also really cleaning up all the legislation that we've thrown at you. So thank you very much for your years of doing that. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Kirkpatrick, I just want to add my gratitude. You and I have known each other a long time, but fortunately for you, you only had to work with me for 1 year. But when I started a year ago, you had 4 new council members, so I'm sure it was like herding cats. But thank you, as Councilwoman Raybold said, for your grace and your courage all the time, and it's a big balancing act, and we will miss you. And just thank you for being such a distinguished public servant for so many years, and we don't want you to get too far away. So thanks so much.
I just want to thank you as well. I came in as an appointment, and so I felt like I was a newbie, and yet you treated every question I had with respect, and you gave me some very good guidance. And even when we disagreed with each other, you still were incredibly professional. And Jeff, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilperson Bowers.
So most of us became on the council probably about a year ago. I was the youngest one.
Still are.
Still am, yeah. I was put into a group where there was a big experience gap, a big age gap, and
Not that big.
well, no, not that big.
Yeah.
The point that I'm getting to is that it would have been really easy to push me aside. It would have been really easy to not take the time to explain things to me. I probably didn't have as many connections as a lot of people do up here, but you took the time. You never made me feel stupid. You always made me feel really supported, and I won't forget that. You made me a better council person, and it's because of your education and your leadership that gives the next generation enough courage to run because they're going to have supports like you. So thank you so much for taking me under your wing and being a strong rock. I really appreciate it.
Yes, and I want to thank you just for helping me so much and appreciate everything that you've done for us and for all of us new ones. And it's worked out really well, and your professionalism has been outstanding. And so I want to thank you. I know it's hard to put up with me. We got another lawyer in here that had to do that for many years, but they kept me in line also, and you did a good job, so thank you. Any other comments?
I just want to say thanks. I miss you guys.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you so
Jeff.
much.
Yeah.
Now somebody needs to move that.
Yeah, Jane, did you want to move the
I move
resolution?
approval of the resolution expressing the city's gratitude honoring the outstanding dedication of Jeff Kirkpatrick and naming July 17, 2020 as Jeff Kirkpatrick Day, and I'm hoping he gets a free cup of coffee somewhere.
Second.
Second by acclamation.
It's been moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Any other comments or questions at this time? Please call a roll.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, moving on. Public hearing and ordinance second readings.
I'll be calling items 7A and through 7C together. Annexation 20010, application of Agdinvest LLC on behalf of Lincoln Public Schools to annex approximately 161 acres on property generally located at South 70th Street and Satilla Road, along with the related change of zone 20018 to change from AG Agriculture District to P Public District, and also the related conditional zoning and annexation agreement for South 70th and Satilla Road between the city and Lancaster County School District number 0001, aka Lincoln Public Schools, for the annexation and development of property generally located at 70th Street and Satilla Road.
Okay, who would like to come up and speak first?
David Carey, Director of the Planning Department. I want to more or less kind of just kick this off. We have representatives from Lincoln Public Schools here to assist us in understanding the application, but I wanted to give some context to the work that has been done to get us to this point. There has been a significant amount of coordination and discussion with Lincoln Public Schools and the city to get to the point of being able to move forward with this change of zone, annexation, and related annexation agreement. Basically, what we have here is the ability to do the improvements, the public improvements that are needed to serve a new high school site in the northeast corner of South 70th and Saltillo Road. So this is a direct result of the successful bond issue that occurred actually just before we had to directly deal with all the pandemic issues. So this is an opportunity to help our community grow, our public school system grow, to meet the demands of growth in our community. So that is something that we've worked on together. I would say that the location that this is at already was allowing for urban water and sewer to serve it, just based on the topography. Not all of this area was available for development, but as a single site user, we were able to coordinate with LPS to serve the site. The discussion really revolved around the roadway improvements to South 70th Street and Saltillo Road. We feel like we have worked on this agreement to allow for a best design to serve the needs of the new high school site. This also has to be coordinated with the improvements to the intersection of 70th and Saltillo with the South Beltway project. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but we have worked it through to the point of being ready to move forward with it now and to allow for the development of the site for the high school to move forward. So with that, I certainly can answer some questions now. I think we would like to have our representatives from LPS to step forward as well to speak, and then we all will be available to answer questions as needed. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Director Carey at this point? We reserve the right to call you back up. Okay, who else would like to come forward? Yes, come on up. Mr. Wieskamp.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Scott Wieskamp. I'm the Director of Operations for Lincoln Public Schools. A couple of comments just I think are helpful. As you know, we passed a bond issue in February of this year, but the process for determining where high schools would be probably started a couple of years prior to that. We did not make that announcement in terms of these sites until late fall, early winter of 2019, but on 2 occasions prior to that date, in at least a year in advance, we invited probably 20 city staff to kind of an exercise, a closed-door exercise, to talk about potential locations for high school sites that could be served with utilities and best serve our community and how our community would grow. And so we really appreciated those work sessions because they were very honest and very frank with us about where good locations would be as the 2040 comp plan, which is now being updated to the 2050, would be able to absorb our school facilities as we grew. So we appreciate that partnership in that amount of time. The second piece is projects like this don't align very easily because we have different funding mechanisms. Ours was based on a vote, yes or no. And on February 11th, we knew that we had a successful bond issue and we might have had an unsuccessful one. And where the city has to plan for infrastructure in your 1 and 6 year CIP plan. And so you didn't know this was coming even though we had been talking about it for a long time. So getting these things to align is very difficult, and we totally understand that. So that all being said, I want to just acknowledge you as a council. I know this has not even been voted on yet. It's another week away, and the mayor, David Carey and his staff, Brian Will in that department, Lincoln Transportation Utilities, Liz Elliott's been very hands-on with this. Lonnie Berkland, who I know is not with the city anymore, was involved. Thomas Schaefer, Mark Lucha Harms, Shane Dostal, a lot of staff have been involved. City Attorney Tim C. And so lots of hours and time have been spent to get to the point we are that David mentioned just a minute ago. So we really appreciate that partnership. We wouldn't get to where we are today without that partnership that we have with city and city staff. And so I just wanted to let you know that I know you just recognized City Attorney's Office, but you have a lot of good staff and a lot of departments. And so we appreciate that. And I'm just here to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Wieskamp?
Mr. Wieskamp, I have a couple of questions, and it may be that these are ill-timed, or I could ask them at a slightly different moment, but I am interested in utilities. As you mentioned in your introduction, not all parties are in the same place, and I am curious what LPS is planning for utilities to the site. I know that you'll have city utilities for the building, the high school building, but I'm aware that this will also have a lot of playing fields on the south end, and it looks like it's in a different watershed. And I'm curious how you intend to bring specifically water and wastewater services to that section of the property.
So all of the facilities in our current design, not only the school, but support facilities, restrooms, concessions, are all sewerable within this watershed.
Okay.
So there are no support facilities that are outside of this watershed. The fields will be some artificial turf as we build out, and some will be irrigated with an on-site irrigation well. And so all utilities should be served, or all facilities served from this existing watershed.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Wieskamp? I have one. Will there be connection to Saltillo Road?
Right now, the current plan in this agreement shows a connection at the half-mile mark on Saltillo Road, so a half a mile east of 70th.
Okay.
There are long-range plans for a quarter-mile access point so that we would be able to, if need be, provide access to the property on the corner. So that's all part of the master plan, but right now, there will not be. I will say that over the last couple of months as we've negotiated this, we've talked about roundabouts at that half-mile point on Saltillo and one at the half-mile point on 70th at Carger. Both of those, we believe, will reduce speed and help for the safety and well-being of the students and staff and families in those areas. And as you know, there'll be a roundabout at 70th and Saltillo that's consistent with the South Beltway project. So we believe it's going to be a very safe location. And again, we appreciate the city pressing us for those types of improvements to make sure that we provide a safe site.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Wieskamp? Okay. Anybody else would like to come forward to speak on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we can move on.
Our next item is item 7D, change of zone 20016, application of Lincoln Federal Bancorp, Inc. for a change from AG Agriculture District to R3 Residential District and from AG Agriculture District to P Public District on property generally located at South 27th Street to South 40th Street, Rokeby Road, and to Yankee Hill Road.
Anyone like to come forward?
Good afternoon, council members. I'm here on behalf of Lincoln Federal Bancorp. We'd actually request a delay on this for 1 week for public testimony to be moved till next Monday when the person that actually could not, that was in opposition and had applied for a public hearing to council could not attend today because of a duty to serve jury duty, actually. So to accommodate that request, we're asking for a 1 week delay.
So can I be clear that you want the hearing, public hearing would be on the 20th and action on the 27th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we take 7D and delay public hearing until our next meeting and then final vote on the meeting following. Is that correct?
Right.
Could I get who seconded that motion, please?
Ms. Washington.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Please call the roll on 7D.
Bowers? Yes. Christensen?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Okay, our next item then would be item 7E, is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter X by creating the classification of payroll clerk.
Afternoon, Council. Doug McDaniel, Human Resources. This is a creation of a new position at the request of the Finance Department. It involves the centralization of the payroll services to finance, so a new classification is needed to consolidate all the people into one unique classification. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for? Okay, seeing none, thank you for coming in. As well.
Next item, 7F, is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter W by changing the title from City Engineer to Assistant Director of Transportation and Public Works Assistant Director to Assistant Director of Utilities.
Again, this is a change in title for the classification. The Assistant Director, Utilities and Transportation were in one classification previously. We have opted under the new director to move this City Engineer and just change the title to Assistant Director of Transportation as we go out and search for a replacement position.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Anybody from the public would like to come forward on item 7E or F? Seeing none, we move on.
Thank you.
7G.
Item 7G is amending Lincoln Municipal Code Chapter 5.34 relating to pawnbrokers to add additional definitions and to encourage electronic reporting.
Oh. Want to start off? Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to do it or you want
I would rather have you
Okay.
start and then.
Very good. Tanya Peters, Assistant City Attorney. I am here on behalf of the Lincoln Police Department to introduce the changes to the pawnbroker ordinance. It's basically revamping the pawnbroker ordinance to bring it up to 2020 standards. So historically, it's been a paper format where pawn slips are done by hand, fingerprints are taken, really no documentation of the property that is pawned on except for some brief like handwritten scratch notes. There is a program that we contracted with called Leads Online. We did this approximately a year ago or so. And it's basically just an online inventory of what the pawnbrokers have taken in. It gives a period of time for law enforcement to review those items that come in to check for stolen, lost goods that have been reported to the department. Lincoln Police Department has used this in a number of cases, including some assistance in the Sidney Loop case, identifying items that were pawned on the coast. So it's a pretty extensive system. Omaha uses it. I believe Grand Island may also use that system. So because of state statute, we had to also keep the paper format in here because the state law is kind of drafted in that same archaic language that calls for pawn slips. So we provided two systems. It's not ideal. They have the option of doing Leads Online, basically hand entry. It creates, they can use it for their business inventory and whatever, take photographs, fingerprints, all electronically, and they don't have to do any paper copies. Or they can bring a paper copy into the police department daily, and then LPD will take that information, type it into Leads, upload all of the supporting documents, the fingerprints, the photographs, and all of that stuff. As you can imagine, it's duplication of labor. It's going to take some reassignment of staff to do so. So the proposal is to charge $5 a pawn slip to do that. Ideally, we would have everybody move to the online system and not have any paper. So that's the goal. If there's any other questions, or if there's questions, I can answer them. Go ahead.
Am I remembering there was something about being open on weekends that had to do with this?
Right, and I don't know the history behind the closure for sure. What I'm surmising some of this, but pawn shops were closed or prohibited from operating on Sundays. That would have been a day that the police department would not have as much staff. At one time, crime analysis did the data entry on these pawn slips. Once we got leads, they kind of moved over to records. Records has more staff, but where it started, I don't know. It could have been that we just didn't want pawns on Sunday, and staffing, of course, facilitated that. So that would go away with this ordinance. My understanding is most of the pawn shops are now operating within Leads. Maybe not uploading everything that we would request that they upload in this ordinance, but the ordinance would push them over that little final hump. And then they would be able to open on Sundays. So it'd take after you vote, it would take 15 days before they could open on Sundays.
So am I understanding correctly, if anybody who's using this LEADS program would be able to be open on Sunday, but anybody who's not using it, using the paper system, would still be required to be closed on Sunday?
No, we just got rid of it altogether. It's too hard for law enforcement to manage who can be open and who not, and that's why we've always avoided it. Like, for example, liquor licenses, and always have a standard schedule.
Mr. Chair, ooh, look at me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilperson Trobe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you go into a little bit more detail on the $5 fee? Is that for everyone, or just for electronic, or just for
Those
paper?
that are still using the paper copy. So what would happen is every year they apply for a pawn permit in order to be a pawn broker. And they would designate at that point in time if they're going to use the online system or use the paper system. They can't go between the two. So pick one and stick with it. If you choose to do the paper version, it's $5 per pawn.
Per item?
Per
day, per item? Yeah. You said per pawn, and I'm...
Per pawn. So you could have multiple items, I think, on one pawn slip. I have not actually filled out a pawn slips, but I believe that's correct. So it's per person. Maybe that's a better way to say
Per
it.
individual
Right.
using the services.
Right.
Any other questions for her?
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna do a follow-up on that one.
Okay.
Sorry. So we're still using paper because state law, if the state law were to change with this paper $5 fee, we'd have to come back and revisit that?
Right.
It won't
And
automatically
I
go
think we
away.
could just, we'd have to look at it, but we could probably just do it in a cleanup provision if that happened. It's just no senator has taken on that item as a change, but it would be great if they did.
Hint.
Yeah, looking for volunteers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Councilperson Bowers, you have some things you'd like to say?
Yeah, I don't have any specific questions. I had a really eloquent speech planned for the introduction of this, but I'll skip over that. Essentially, what this does is, the goal of this is to allow pawn shops to remain open on Sundays. I really appreciate Jamie Hogel, who works with AAA Pawn, for bringing this to the city's attention and sharing that that most pawn brokers are already using this electronic system. I think as a city council, we're all dedicated to making sure that our municipal code keeps up with the times, and we can't keep outdated ordinances or regulations just because that's the way that it always has been, especially if they're creating barriers for groups like businesses in Northeast Lincoln. So I'm really thankful to have this conversation and for some of the testimony or the public comment that we'll hear today. But this provides a way for pawn shops that most of the pawn shops have already moved to the electronic system, and it doesn't make sense to me to hold back the majority of businesses that are using the electronic system, which makes the city's workload easier. So thank you so much for drafting this, and look forward to more conversation about this with the next few people.
Okay.
I'll be available if there's any questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Anybody else would like to come forward to speak on this item?
Hello, I'm Jamie Hogel. I had spoke with you guys. I'm here on behalf of AAA Ultimate Pawn. I had spoke with you guys back on March about this issue. I'm very glad to see that it's on the agenda. Everything that's on there is what we have been trying to do since 2017. Get us open, allow us to be open on Sundays, and as well use the database system, Leads Online, that they're referring to. And if I can clarify for your question for you, so each person can bring in multiple items at one time, and each item is written on one ticket. So I believe the way that it's drafted right now is that it would be $5 per ticket that they would get charged. So if they came in on Monday and had 5 items, it would be $5 for that one transaction. If they came in the next day, it would be $5 for that transaction, and so on and so forth.
Go ahead.
And that's charged to you? Do you pass that on to the?
I do believe it goes to the city, is the way that I have understood it. It would not be our cost. I thought that it was written that way, but I could be wrong.
Who pays it? Do you pay it and it comes off of your loan, or does the person
Yeah,
engaging in
me
the
as
fund?
us as a business would have to pay that if we choose not to use that system, and then we would pay the city or whoever it is.
And there's no fee with the electronic version?
Correct. Nope. The only thing, there's certain attachments to it, as far as like you have to take an electronic fingerprint or you have to take an electronic signature. So you do have to purchase those two attachments, but other than that, that's just the one-time fee to buy them.
For hardware?
Yep, exactly. Yep. So I just wanted to thank everybody for listening to me and taking the time to try to get this to move forward.
Okay. Thank you for coming down. Anybody else would like to come forward on 7G? Okay, seeing no one, let's move on.
Item 7H is Street and Alley Vacation 19008, application of the Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska to vacate a portion of 17th Street right-of-way lying between Vine Street on the south and X Street.
Good afternoon again. Dan Marvin with Urban Development. I'm here today. I know that there are representatives from the university. Some of people all have masks on, so I'm not exactly sure who. But I know they want to speak on this item. I just want to introduce it. One of the items I think that was a little unusual on this particular case was we did retain a evaluation. We used Tom Kubert to do an appraisal of the property, and the amount that's being paid is the appraisal amount that was provided to us by Tom Kubert. Any questions?
Do you have any questions? No, not now.
Okay. I'll just park myself over here.
Okay. Not very.
Can you hear me well?
Yep.
Great,
Yes.
thank you. Lance Perez, 920 Piedmont Road, Lincoln, Nebraska. Chairman McGinnis and members of the Lincoln City Council, thank you for having me here today. I am also the Dean of the College of Engineering at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I appear before you today requesting your approval of the Street and Alley vacation request, which will allow for the expansion of the College of Engineering. With me here today is John Jensen, the real estate manager for the university, who can answer any technical questions you may have about this request. The College of Engineering serves as one of the original key foundational components of the land-grant mission at the University of Nebraska. The only College of Engineering in the state of Nebraska. We currently educate over 3,000 undergraduate students, the majority from Nebraska, in 12 different degree programs in engineering, construction, and computing. We deliver our programs on East Campus and City Campus in Lincoln, on the Scott Campus in Omaha, and have partnerships with the University of Nebraska-Kearney and Wayne State University. Our graduates leave UNL with the least amount of student debt and among the highest salaries of any college at the university. It is a great career path for our young adults. As shown in the Engineering Nebraska's Future document, the college has worked with the Office of President Carter, the Office of Chancellor Green, and the Nebraska engineering and business communities to establish an aggressive set of growth goals to position the college to be a major source of economic development in the city of Lincoln and the state of Nebraska. A key component of this strategy is a significant investment in facilities, including Kiewit Hall, which is the basis for today's action. Kiewit Hall is a new, approximately 181,000 gross square foot building currently under design that will be dedicated almost entirely to our teaching mission. The university plans on placing Kiewit Hall east of Othmer Hall, just north of Vine Street, on the intersection with 17th Street. The site north of Kiewit Hall, which will include the 17th Street, will be redeveloped into an academic quad and green space for use by our students and by the public. The College of Engineering's growth plan and Kiewit Hall will have significant benefits to the Lincoln community and the Lincoln economy, including, just to mention a few, a larger graduate and undergraduate student body. These are students who participate in the Lincoln economy and the Lincoln community. An additional 70 faculty who are key members of the Lincoln community and who also, when they come to Nebraska, usually bring with them another highly educated partner who also finds a home in Lincoln. An almost fourfold increase in externally funded research from just over $30 million to $125 million, most of which will get expended in Lincoln and which will lead to extended technology transfer and the increased number of startup companies. And this growth will also create a lot of high-quality staff jobs for members of the Lincoln community. In the longer term, Kiewit Hall supports the College of Engineering's goal of building a more talented, diverse, and competitive engineering, construction, and computing workforce in Nebraska. This workforce is essential to retaining current companies and to attracting new companies to Lincoln and Nebraska, which in turn will help us reverse the outmigration of our graduates and our knowledge-based workers. The College of Engineering is excited to share this opportunity with the City of Lincoln. On behalf of the university, I would like to express our appreciation to the city staff and representatives that are working with us in order to make this project a success. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Rabel.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Can you tell us a little bit what will be happening to the Scott Engineering Center that's just to the west?
Sure. At the moment, the Scott Engineering Center is actually the focus of a renovation effort that is ongoing. If you've driven on 17th and 16th Street, you'll notice that there's a big construction project currently underway. We tore down a building that's called The Link. We are rebuilding that and then renovating Scott Engineering Center.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dean Perez, for being here. So I assume your process, we know ours, but in terms of the university and UNL, the Board of Regents approved this project. Was that a unanimous vote? I guess I haven't checked before now that your Board of Regents has unanimously supported this project.
Yes, they have.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, Ms. Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Perez. I certainly can understand why the university would like to extend themselves over 17th Street. It's a great piece of property. But in light of the fact that the city was initially laid out on a beautifully organized grid, I would like to know a couple of things. One, will pedestrians and bicyclists be able to continue to use the 17th Avenue or 17th Street area as a throughway for themselves?
Yes.
Okay. And then secondly, would the university consider some kind of design piece that would show that this was a part of the original grid so that it's not completely blocked off? I'm not suggesting that there needs to be an open road with gutters, but that there needs to be something that demonstrates that this was part of the street system in Lincoln, so
yes,
that historical reference point isn't lost.
That's a great point, and I think if you look at the site plan, which is still under development, this is just a concept at the moment, but they're very much trying to respect the verticality of 17th Street, so there's going to probably be an alley of trees that recognize that.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Christensen.
Dean Perez, are there any utilities, public utilities under this 17th Street?
There are. I'm going to let John talk about that.
Yes, there are.
Okay, we'll let him talk about that. Okay. Any other questions for Dean Perez? Beautiful project.
Thank you
You're
very
right.
much.
It'll be great for the economy of Lincoln. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is John Jensen, the real estate manager for the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. First, thank you to Dr. Perez. The university is privileged to have such a talented individual directing our College of Engineering. We're also fortunate as a city to count him among our professional community. So this vacation action is the continuation of a partnership between the City of Lincoln and the University of Nebraska to make more attractive streetscapes, to improve traffic and safety near campus, as well as improve city budgets and relieve city maintenance costs. As Dr. Perez explained, the most exciting action of this, or part of this vacation action, is the facilitation of an $85 million engineering facility, but there are several other benefits I'd like to discuss. This action will improve the city's budget. The street is in poor condition, and the city's estimated annual maintenance costs are between $25,000 and $30,000 per year. To rehabilitate the street, it'll cost around $150,000. These costs are avoided by transferring responsibility to the university. The city receives payment from the university for the roadway. The value was established, as Dr. Perez mentioned, by an independent appraisal group. This is Kubert Appraisal. The appraiser looked at several different uses for the property and chose the highest and best use, which is as a part of the assemblage of campus, and that value is $71,300. And this amount has been transferred to the city clerk. Secondly, this action will improve or maintain city infrastructure. Over the last several months, the university officials have been working with and met with members of the planning group, the city public works group, the utility services and emergency management, and others as a part of this action to ensure that city interests in infrastructure are either maintained or improved as a result. Accordingly, public easements will be retained by the City of Lincoln and other easement holders so that service is not interrupted. The university is working with the city and easement holders such as LES and Black Hills Energy to their satisfaction as a condition of transfer in this action. Additionally, and as a condition of transfer, accessibility for emergency vehicles will be maintained. And as Dr. Perez mentioned, the north-south route for bicycles and vehicles, for emergency vehicles, will be maintained. The university would like to issue a special thank you to members of those organizations I've mentioned within the city, Black Hills Energy and LES, for working with the university to better develop city infrastructure in this area. Relatedly to easements, there has been some interest in how the university manages stormwater throughout its construction projects. To address this, a little background, UNL holds a municipal separate storm sewer system permit, or an MS4 permit, and has developed a campus-wide stormwater management plan to ensure compliance with this MS4 permit. Compliance with this plan is assisted by a dedicated stormwater management team, and new projects must meet stormwater pollutant reductions to improve the health of surface waters and reduce overall stormwater discharge. During design of this facility and others, the university reviews and approves all designs and specifications as an MS4 permit holder and in regards to its stormwater management plan. So this university stormwater management continues throughout and after construction, and the facilities designer as well as the university inspect the stormwater facilities for compliance, and the contractor also provides a 1-year warranty, which the contractor is obligated to remedy any deficiencies in the designs. In particular, this project, as you can see from the schematic design for North 17th Street, most of the street pavement will be removed and replaced with a courtyard and landscaping, and this overall reduction of impermeable surface with the addition of the landscaping will assist the project in meeting the requirements of the stormwater management plan. So with that, just brief summation of some of the practical benefits in addition to the exciting addition of the College of Engineering. We will see an improvement in city budgets, in safety, in the streetscapes and the traffic flow near campus while providing for the necessary easements, access, and stormwater management. But as I said, these are the practical benefits, and the real exciting part is this new addition of the College of Engineering within our city of Lincoln. So I'd like to thank you all for your time and the opportunity to share these exciting new developments serving the state of Nebraska and the Lincoln community. And once again, I'd like to thank all of the city and county officials who have worked with the university and coordinated on this project that will continue to make it a mutual success. And I would like to answer any questions you may now have.
Does anyone have any questions for? I do. I have one. In the agreement, it's supposed to, and it doesn't say it anywhere in the ordinance, but the fire department is requiring an access through and between all these buildings from Vine Street north all the way.
Yeah, as a condition of transfer, emergency vehicles will be able to access a north-south passageway in order to access the areas they feel are necessary to respond to fire and other emergencies.
It says fire engines and fire aerial engines between the buildings from Vine Street, where the UNL College building will be located, north along the same route as the current street.
That's correct.
So there's going to be access through your building?
Well, the design is still up in the air, but as a condition of transfer, that is going to be true, that emergency vehicles will either be able to access what is now the street through either the east, probably the east portion, from south to north.
Okay. So what we're voting on, or that we will vote on in the ordinance, it doesn't state any of that? Is that, and that's a city issue, it wouldn't be
That's
yours?
right.
Where it would say that we're requiring that to be in there? Well, I'll ask the city that question.
Very good.
Would we find that in the conditions
Within the ordinance.
within the ordinance? Because I see under the department review status report, that requirement.
It's in the recommendations for the, to conform in the planning staff report, but it's nowhere in the ordinance that we're voting on. So that's why I just got a question for staff.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any other
thank you.
questions? Thank you.
Would that be you, Dan, or LTU, or law? Okay.
Here comes Tim.
Here comes Tim.
I gotta get back to that page.
Tennessee City Law Department. We can add it to the ordinance. That would not be a difficult thing to do. Actually, the more key thing, though, is to add it to the deed that conveys the property to retain that easement, so that it's a matter of record. So, from our perspective, that's the most critical. That's what we would intend to do, is to include it as part of the deed.
Okay.
But if we were to, sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, I could play an attorney right now for just a moment, but if we were to add it to the ordinance, we could add it to section 2 along with the other easements, utility easements?
If that's what the easements are, that would be good. I don't have
Where they are.
I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you if that's the right section, but I'll take your word for that. That would be the place we would add it.
Lawyered.
Okay, we'll have another bite of this at next meeting. Thank you. Anybody else would like to come forward to speak on this item today? Okay, seeing none, let's move on.
Item 7I, Street and Alley Vacation 20001, application of Union College to vacate a portion of the east-west alley adjacent to lots 1 through 12, Block 1 of College View, generally located at South 52nd and Calvert Streets.
Good afternoon, Dan Marvin, Urban Development. Put on the screen here, this is over for Union College. This is a small area of alley that extends through Union College campus. What is being voted on here would be vacation of that alley. So the utility improvements or the utilities that run under that would still be preserved. Flip it this way. This is Calvert Street. This is the red is the alleyway, and there's a potential for a future building on that campus that they would be expanding into. This one did not have an appraisal because of the dollar amount is so slow or so low. It's not economically reasonable to spend $1,300 in appraisal to get a $1,300 check. But as an alternative, we have Michelle in our office, who is quite knowledgeable on the going prices of real estate in the area. She used a going price of $4 to $5 a square foot with an impairment because we're retaining easements under this, and so that's how the value was arrived at for this particular property.
What is that value?
Total amount that I think we'll be receiving is just at $2,000.
Okay.
Or, let me take a look here.
$21,156.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to solve our budget.
I'll take any questions. I don't, forgive me, I don't know if anybody from Union College is here to speak to this item.
we do.
Okay, we do.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Trana, the Vice President of Finance and Administration at Union College, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have with regard to this project, if there are anything.
Any questions for Steve? Yes, Councilman Christensen.
It was indicated that there's a building that you might be thinking of putting there?
Yeah, we're working on a project where we may be expanding the current, if you're familiar with our campus, it's the building where our swimming pool is located, and this would be to the north of that. We're talking about building a gymnasium and workout facility there for our students.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, it'd be sad to see my soccer field go away, but
Yeah, there's not a soccer field there yet, but from our understanding of soccer field sizes, that field wasn't quite big enough for that either. So.
We're good for my small kids. But. Any other comments? Okay, anybody else like to come forward on this item today? Seeing none, let's move on.
Item 7J, Street and Alley Vacation 20002, application of John Galt Development LLC to vacate the portion of West Saunders Avenue lying west of Northwest 10th Street and east of Cornhusker Highway, generally located at 1010 West Cornhusker Highway.
Dan Marvin, Urban Development, again, and little history on this. This went to Planning Commission in April of 2020. I hadn't been with the city at that time. I did visit with David Carey. This was an item that went to Planning Commission. The staff recommendation was that it did not conform with the comprehensive plan. There was a public hearing. At that point, it received a 7-0 vote that we should move forward and vacate this triangular piece of the property here to allow some expansions within that property. Again, I visited with David earlier today. I think he'd be happy to come in and talk, but I do not believe he has a problem with this moving forward since subsequent to the vote on Planning Commission. I do believe that the acquirer might be here, so I will, if he's not, I'll be available for questions.
It says here that this was a street and an alley, or is it just a piece of property? It's on a street and alley vacation.
Yes, but it's so basically what it is it's an extension. It's an extension of Saunders Street, West Saunders Street, onto Cornhusker Highway, and I believe if you go and read the discussions in the Planning Commission. The questions of the likelihood of this ever being an extension where it would connect into Cornhusker Highway, given the limitations on access, the curve in that particular area, that the likelihood that this would ever be extended as a roadway appeared to be remote.
Okay. Any other questions for our director? Okay, seeing none. Anyone else?
I'm the applicant. My name is Mark Becker. And the reason that we're trying to get this vacated, and he's correct, this is the property here. And it was basically just to get so that we could mow it. And I did not realize, I've owned all the adjacent property for 25 years. Here is the area. We wanted to just have this area filled a little bit and graded so that we could mow. In order to do that, since it was the city's property, we didn't have permission. And I thought we owned the property, but I just realized recently that we did not. So unfortunately, I'm not building a new college or benefiting the community greatly. I'm just trying to keep my lawn mowed.
Thank you. That's sometimes the challenge in the city, though.
And Michelle, I think, came up with a value, and I think we deposited that.
Okay, any questions?
I do have a question with that photograph. I
first one or
must
the
admit I
second one?
came past that area just about an hour ago. It looks like there's a ditch there. Is that an intentional ditch, or is that just?
That is a ditch that was there when I bought the property 25 years ago. And what's happened is over time, it's just slightly eroded and there's a bunch of like broken up concrete blocks in there. And we've damaged our mower. So we wanted to just grade it out a little bit and fill it back in, but we don't have the permission. I mean, we can't do that on the city's property. It's a very small piece of property, but we just mow it together with everything.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
You were thinking stormwater, right?
I was thinking stormwater, but then I see that it's already blocked by, I needed a second look at that.
It doesn't go into
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, anybody else like to come forward? Okay. Please call the next one.
I'll be calling items 7K through 7M together. Item 7K is Annexation 19005, application of Iron Ridge Development LLC to annex approximately 42 acres on property generally located at South 34th Street and Rokeby Road, and the related change of zone 17013A for a change from AG Agriculture District to R3 Residential District for the expansion of an existing PUD planned unit development and associated waivers. Also, item 7M is the annexation agreement of Avilo Expansion Development Agreement between the City, Avilo Acres LLC, Butch Cassidy LLC, and Lincoln Federal Bank Corp. For the annexation of property located at South 34th Street and Rokeby Road and the construction of related infrastructure improvements.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Gergen with the Clark Anderson Partners. We have a two-phase presentation. We'll first talk about the zoning and the annexation of the land, and we'll talk about the agreement next. Peter Catt, the developer with Iron Ridge, will talk about that. If you go over onto the screen, we'll show the Iron Ridge development. It's an existing 500 unit apartment or 50,000 square foot commercial area on the corner here. And then approximately 270 single-family units right in this area. Our application right now is to annex those 40 acres, which is roughly about 165 single-family and attached single-family units to the already existing Iron Ridge PUD. We've met with the surrounding neighbors. We have an agreement in place with the surrounding neighbors to improve Rokeby Road. There's a blow-up of the proposed annexation right there. And then right now, our proposed development is to improve Rokeby Road permanently with concrete curb and gutter storm sewer system from 40th Street to its existing pavement that got extended with the Iron Ridge original PUD, which would be approximately from 40th Street to South 31st Street. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have with the development.
Do we have any questions for Tim? I do. I have one quick one. You said you're going to do concrete and storm and curb and gutter to the paved area?
That is correct.
To the blacktopped area that's there now?
That is
But
correct.
You're not going to extend that to 27th Street?
Right now, 27th Street, from 31st to 27th Street, we have a large waterway crossing that is undersized. There is not enough money to build that, turn that box culvert into a bridge. So we're going to leave that as a temporary pavement with rural asphalt paving. When the city does the a little bit further studying of that drainage crossing, we'll be able to know how to widen that more permanently with a more permanent structure of that crossing.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Gergen?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Catt?
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. My name's Peter Catt. I'm appearing as the developer of this project, and I'm here to address the annexation agreement. And I want to start by saying thanks to the council and all of the taxpayers of the City of Lincoln that financed the ability to help get this annexation agreement in place by agreeing to increase their sales and use tax. This project has been over 2 years in the making to get here today. With the patience of the owner of the property that I'm buying it from, and she has the property immediately to the south. It's part of her longtime family homestead. We were originally not going to be able to do the extensive road project that happened, but with the sales and use tax dollars that were made available by the taxpayers, the city's ability to help make projects like this come to life changed the dynamic. And I think obviously for our project and for the city of Lincoln, we think it's a great use of the dollars, and it was well worth the additional probably 6 to 9 months it took to negotiate an annexation agreement that includes not just the city of Lincoln and myself as the developer, but the adjoining property owner to the north, Lincoln Federal, and Mr. Sampson. And so this project will end up paving to an urban standard from the 40th Street improvements that you're all working on, trying to get that connected to the South Beltway. And it's important to get this project moved forward, since it will then be able to connect and provide a bypass route over 27th Street. It's never easy putting together 3 different property owners in the city of Lincoln, and the city of Lincoln has about 3 different interest groups as well. But I think this is a very good project. It's a very good example of sales and use dollars, and it addresses one of my longtime concerns that the city always said, hey, developer, you pay. Yeah, we know we owe some, but it always came to the table empty-handed. This is a project that the city does come to the table with the ability to help. It's still not all the way there, but I'm not complaining. It just takes a little bit of time, and with with us wearing masks and all that we're going through and the impacts that it's having on the economy, we need to be a little bit cautious and judicious about not overextending. I think your staff has done a great job with this. It's been a pleasure working with everyone in the city on this project. We had a common goal to get this project brought forward, and I think we're there. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you may have about the annexation agreement, but I think this is a good example of putting those funds to work for the city of Lincoln and the taxpayers.
Yes, Councilman Christensen.
I'd like to just go a little more into the future as you start developing this piece of property. What kind of homes do you envision being built here?
Well, currently in the Iron Ridge development, this is an addition to it. The Legacy Homes is the primary home builder in that development. Those homes, the single-family homes in that development, are about $400,000 plus. We have some of the other builders that have moved into that neighborhood that are up over $600,000. The next phase in Iron Ridge on the south side of the pond will probably hit $600,000 to $800,000. These lots here, this product here, will end up more likely hitting a little bit more moderate price point, which is what we hope to do by bringing in the townhome development. As you know, affordable housing issues in our community are a challenge. Yep. And the one way to address those issues is through the use of density. And so this next phase in the project brings in an area of a little bit higher density. I would expect those homes the duplex townhomes in that to be in the 260 to 320 range. It kind of depends a little bit on that, but it'll bring, it's hard to imagine a 260,000 home being an affordable, moderately priced home, but home prices are, as you know, accelerating throughout the community, and that's about as inexpensively as you can bring a new home in market, and particularly in South Lincoln.
Any other questions for Mr. Catt? I have a couple. Most of this funds are being paid, are we doing directed impact fees on some of the roads?
Yes. So it's a combination of directed impact. So the developers, all 3 of us, advance certain money in to get the road built, and then and all of our directed impact fees then get repaid back to us as we pay those impact fees into the city. I negotiated real hard for me to be able to have credits so that I didn't have to go through the rigmarole of paying money and waiting 6 months and the time value of money and the difficulty of doing that with the city. There's one agreement that did it. Mine didn't meet the cut. I would encourage you to encourage your staff to do more of that. Again, not complaining, but if you want to look for opportunities. Then in terms of the sales and use tax dollars, the agreement specifies that those get paid back out over a particular time frame, and the city's been trying to balance those because they have more demand than there are funds, and they've tried to be fair in how they've allocated those, not only amongst the development group that I'm in, but with all of the other, 6 or 7 projects I think that are out there. And it is a balance and a policy, and that's, hopefully I've answered your question.
Mm-hmm. And then Rokeby Road at this point does not go through. It's not it's a mile-long road, basically, between 27th and 40th.
That's correct. It is in the paper. It's called a minor arterial. It was originally classified as an arterial. It would have been nice to have it as a collector, as opposed to an arterial, because it would have made the project much more affordable. And as you note, this road really is a road to nowhere. I think it could have been, but it's been in our comp plan for a long time as an arterial. The staff, I thought, did a reasonably good job of classifying it as a minor arterial, and the pavement standard that they required for the road, again, was reasonable in light of the fact that the likelihood that this is going to need to be widened to a 4-lane cross-section at any time, and well, definitely not my lifetime, ever, I would say, is very remote. So I think the staff took those factors into consideration as a part of what requirements they required for the road improvements. So I think it was a good balance.
Part of this, what is Ironwood or?
Iron Ridge.
Iron Ridge development. Is there possible more land to be brought in and part of the CUP or PUD?
Well, yes, the directly south, which is the property that I'm acquiring from that owner there, she's brought in a small portion of her parcel. She has another 40 acres in the middle. She has the potential to bring some more in, which would then also connect to the future school site down there.
Okay.
LPS owns 40 acres down there. That's an extension that drains back to the west. And then Mr. Sampson has the whole corner around the LES substation around there too. So there's significant amount of additional land in this area that's ready for development.
So to get the road done is important.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Catt? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward and speak on this? Tim, would you like to rebut at all? Guess not. Okay. Nobody else would like to come forward to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, let's move on.
Item 7N, appeal by Bruce J. Prenda of Planning Commission approval of special permit 20016 to allow for a new community unit plan on property generally located at the northeast corner of South 27th Street and Rokeby Road.
Good afternoon again. So this is really an extension of 7D. I should have explained that a little bit better, and I maybe even could have asked for this one to be taken with it, but I don't think I could have until this was actually called. So Mr. Prenda is unable to attend the appeal, and so I'm asking for a one week continuance so that the public hearing can be on the 20th and vote on I think I said that the 27th is right.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilperson Washington, seconded by,
Tammy.
oh, Tammy did. See, with these masks, I don't know who said what. Seconded by Councilperson Christensen, correct?
Who can help you with that hearing problem?
Yeah, I know. What hearing?
With the hearing problem, yes.
We have a 1 week delay on the public hearing.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Just a clarification. So that's 7D like dog and 7N like Nancy are related to each other? And 7,
Yeah, they're both in appeal.
Okay.
I would have gone Delta in November, but
Oh.
Okay. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. I'll be calling items 7O and 7P together. Comprehensive Plan Conformance 20007, application of the Urban Development Director to amend the Antelope Valley Redevelopment Plan by adding the 2236 R Street redevelopment project on property generally located at 2226 R Street and the related change of zone 08066B, application of 2236 R Street LLC for a change from R6 Residential District to R6 Planned Unit Development to add additional residential area with waivers as part of an expansion of the Antelope Village PUD located on approximately 15.08 acres.
Good afternoon, Dan Marvin with Urban Development. What you have before you is a project on 2236 R Street, which is approximately right here on the map. And again, this is a plan amendment, so we have the Antelope Valley Plan, and we're amending it to adopt this project in here. The hashed area would be areas where we can have eligible tax increment financing expenditures, and that you will notice a long strip through here. That's not a building, that's an alleyway, and so we've painted in an area to help provide some funds for alley improvements. We have not completed a redevelopment agreement, but we would expect that to be coming forward to you within a month or so, and it would be anticipated that they would use the small TIF funds available for tax increment financing on this project. The unique thing about this particular project is they will preserve a building that is commercial and has a business already operating in it, so they will not, they'll be maintaining that person in business. This was at the Planning Commission on a consent agreement, and it was voted 6-0 in favor. The project includes 2226, 2230, and 2236 R Street. It's 12 apartments, 4 one-bedrooms, 2 loft units, and 6 two-bedrooms. Total development investment is about $1.9 million. Project has been to Urban Design. They've reviewed the schematic drawings and gave it a thumbs up. And the developer is here, or their attorney is here to make additional comments. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
One quick question. I see we're going all the way across the road. Is that just to the city?
Oh, over here.
To the city right away?
No, down on N Street.
Down our street. Down our street.
On our street.
That's just all the public right-of-way.
Okay. So you just included all the public right away. Okay. Any other questions for Director Marvin? Yes.
Director Marvin, will any of the housing units in this project be affordable?
We don't expect that the projects will have, as we did with the Hepburn project, a requirement of 60% MI, but we have been in discussions with them accepting housing vouchers or not excluding housing vouchers as a terms for accepting new residents.
All right, thank you.
I'll ask, do we have enough off-street parking for all the units? And I can ask the applicant.
Well, so I don't, what the amendment to the PUD, so what you'll see is there's another map which I don't have in front of you, but it amends in the additional PUD area and pulls this into a PUD, which allows for all of the project to be built under existing zoning for that PUD, which allows for parking for the commercial building and for the parking requirements for the residential units. I know Director Carey is here, and if I spoke wrong, he'll correct me. But I think that's the purpose of the second item on the agenda, is to put this into a PUD so that it can conform with the rules of that existing PUD that covers 12 acres.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none. Would anyone else like to come forward and speak on this?
Hello again, Brad Marshall with Olson. I just wanted to add, first, I think Dan did a great job of going over the high-level view of this project. I personally have been involved with the Antelope Village or Antelope Valley PUD for about 13 years now, and to see this area redevelop has been exciting to say the least, to be honest. This is another great little project. As we said, it included 12 new dwelling units, able to utilize and maintain an existing commercial property that is there. I might flash a couple of images here. So this is just a street view of the property, of what is existing there. You can see, I'm hitting the wrong one. I should know better. So the house on the left-hand side is to be demolished, and that is where the west side apartments are going to be, and then there in the middle is, I believe, a bakery, and will be maintained and have some facade upgrades as part of the overall project, and to explain the kind of that TIF project. This is just a view of the project from the aerial. Gives you a sense of where the actual buildings are going to be added. Frontage to the street side. There will be actually a cleanup as part of the project. The driveways and so forth will be cleaned up off of our street and been turfed. Today, there's parking right off of R that the commercial space utilizes, but to meet city standard, that will actually be taken away, and so that there's really technically no driveways off of there. They can still utilize the street to park on. This is a little bit closer view of the actual apartment layout, existing commercial space again, and then you get a little bit better view of the actual parking spaces, of which there is a waiver for. The standard is a 1.75 to 1 ratio on dwellings, and so we went through the process, asked for a 1-to-1. Now that is for what is on site for the dwelling units. We did ask for that to be continued into the commercial space, where we asked for no additional spaces to be utilized for that. And we have, I believe, the support of the city staff to say that even though we can't really count the street parking, that we'll probably be adding capacity by taking the driveways out. That I'd be very happy to answer any questions, and we do have the applicant and owner of the project here that may like to say a couple words as well.
Yes. Councilman Shob?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Marshall, for coming forward. So if you would put that image back up again, please, for me.
Site plan?
Yes, that one's great, yes.
Okay.
So the house that will be demolished is on the left-hand side of this image.
Yep.
And then the retail space that's there will be built around. You'll build around it and modify it to bring it up to code and look pretty and things like that.
Yes.
And then there's an empty lot between that building and the church.
In the church, yes.
And that's part of your other plan.
And that is part of, that is the kind of the east side. There's a little bit longer
I understand, yeah.
apartment building there, yes.
And then, as you talked about earlier, there's like a big concrete parking space in front of the retail. That'll be removed or brought back into something manageable.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I have a
Sure
better
will be.
understanding now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions for Mr. Marshall? Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to come forward on this item?
Hi, I'm Ben Kuntz, the developer on this project. I just wanted to thank Brad. First of all, he's been really helpful. I don't know if you know this, but it's my first development project. Kind of a small project for Lincoln, but definitely a big project for me. Very excited to bring this to our street, and yeah, so any questions I'd be happy to answer.
I have a question similar to what I had for Director Marvin. Have you considered any affordable housing units in this complex, this development?
We haven't considered them. The project targets young professionals and graduate students. I believe that this project brings in rents that are lower than what you see kind of in the downtown market, but definitely higher than in the neighborhood. Granted, the neighborhood is, most of the housing stock there is quite old in comparison to this, so that's kind of the distinguishing factor. I think it's a reasonable rent for a new project.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Kuntz? Thank you. Coming down. Anybody else would like to come forward and speak on this item?
Good afternoon, Council. I'm Nancy Loftus. I'm an attorney in town, but I'm really in this project because Ben Kuntz, the developer, was my student. I teach a real estate class at the university. So when Mr. Perez was talking earlier about we're bringing students into the community and keeping talent here and seeing things, I try very hard with the class to explain that real estate's kind of complicated and not for everybody, but every once in a while one of them gets through and thinks they're going to have a career in this. And so this is Ben's first project as a developer, and I think it's got a lot of appeal to it, and I think it shows a lot of talent and commitment. He and your staff have worked very hard on the heavy lifting in figuring out how to fit this through the development process that's required. And I've explained to him several times. I said, you know, we worked on the acquisition, you developed the concept yourself, you're doing the design work. We've talked about financing, I've structured your business structures, looking at your documents for you, but the most complicated, it'll get tricky when you get into actually bringing it out of the ground and you're running contractors around. But the part we're in right now is the most complicated part of this project. 12 apartments in an existing building. And that's just how it is. And Dan indicated earlier, when we get to the development agreement, there will be some small TIF dollars. This is a project where every dollar has a huge impact to the overall success of the project. So when we talk about affordable housing, it was considered. And he went back and looked and made sure that voucher could be accommodated. And the interdevelopment agreement, or the development agreement, will talk about that. There will be a couple of units. And because of the price point, that will work with the project, but other aspects of configuration didn't work on this one. My hope is that we see him with more projects down the road and that he's able to stay here in Lincoln and do things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other questions for Nancy? Seeing none, thank you for coming down.
Good afternoon. Richard Howerson, 6311 Inverness Road. And since this project involves vouchers and they're willing to accept vouchers, I would hardly recommend the approval of it. I want to thank you again for clarifying last time when they were talking about affordable housing, workforce housing, the work wage, because the average citizen, we aren't sure what they're talking about, you know. But again, you helped clarify that. And again, I'm sure a lot of people I can see why some people have to use vouchers. Again, like I say, we were talking before about $600,000 houses, $260,000 houses was a moderate house. Apartment rents, I hate to think what they are nowadays. Again, I won't tell you what they were when I first got back from the service because you won't believe me. You'd think I'm losing it. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people need to use these vouchers. The housing has gone up. I sometimes go out to Deto and look at the SUVs and the pickups, and I thought, there used to be a house for that. And they're polite. I'm sure they're saying, okay, boomer, you know. But It's, again, the price, I suppose the price has gone up. I know a lot of these developers try to make it as cheap as they can, but I'm sure there's a need for vouchers, and if this development will accept vouchers, I recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Anybody else would like to come up on both of these items? Seeing none, we can move on.
I'll be calling items 7Q through 7S together. Item 7Q is approving a Nebraska Renewable Natural Gas Facility Interconnection and Transportation Service Agreement between Black Hills Nebraska Gas, LLC, doing business as Black Hills Energy, and the city for the transportation of biogas from the Teresa Street Treatment Plant, and the related Innovative Energy Memorandum of Understanding between the city and Black Hills Energy for a joint effort to plan for the use of the biogas at Teresa Street and the landfill. And finally, the franchise agreement for a 20-year term between the city and Black Hills Energy to provide for an increase in the franchise fee and a conversion to a gross receipts model for calculating the franchise fee.
Yes, Mr. Young.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I have moved the mic closer because I've been told I talk too quietly. First, I have to say, when I saw the agenda, I thought we might be here till midnight. Fantastic job, really. It was a long agenda. What you're going to see today is a conversation around our Black Hills agreements. There are 3 of them. I always like to start with a little bit of context and history. T. Boone Pickens, he made a little bit of money. Billionaire oil magnate, yeah. He was quoted in 2008 as saying natural gas is a better transportation fuel than gasoline, cheaper, cleaner, and what's important to me is it's domestic. He went on to talk about using natural gas to help transition from a gasoline-powered transportation system to an electric-powered transportation system. He also talked about nuclear energy. I don't think we're going to talk about that today. A great guy. Our franchise history here in Lincoln, how do we have natural gas here? This is a picture from the Journal Star, circa 1915 at 14th and O. This is the Lincoln Gas and Electric Company. They built the first gas system in Lincoln, carried it forward into the 1980s. Mini Gasco then was the operator. They built out and operated the system for, I think, about 20 years. People's Natural Gas bought it in 1993. And we did our first franchise with People's Natural Gas. And then a company called Utilicor bought them. I think they were actually a subsidiary of Utilicor. And then in 2006, they renamed as Aquila, and we renewed our agreement with them. 2008, Black Hills bought Aquila, and in 2020, we're here today asking you to review and approve a new agreement that would last 20 years. So we're going to talk about 3 agreements tonight. They're pretty quick. The Innovative Energy Agreement really focuses on one thing, and that is renewable natural gas, biomethane. Biomethane, biogas, renewable natural gas really is methane that's produced by fermenting organic matter. I think you guys know what organic matter we ferment at the Teresa Street plant. We also do it at the landfill, right? And so when we've been looking at how do we build a strategy together with our partners at Black Hills, we looked at this Innovative Energy Agreement as a way to study the problem together. This agreement's about 5.5 pages long. It's non-binding, and it lasts for 3 years. Specifically, it's focused on cooperation between the 2 groups to look at renewable natural gas as a resource that can be used here in Lincoln and in an environmentally friendly and efficient way. Options that we could explore also include the below-floor road landfill and how we capture the gas there. A lot of different versions of how do we increase the consumption of renewable natural gas in Lincoln specifically. We're also going to look at the conversion of specific types of city fleet vehicles. Think buses and street sweepers. The second agreement is the Facilities Interconnect Agreement. Very specifically, this is a 2.5-page agreement with 23 pages of technical standards. The 2.5 pages focus on Exhibit D, you see in the picture here, building a pipeline, a very small pipeline from the Teresa Street gas wellhead to 27th Street. That's really what it does. But it says things like the customer, which is the city of Lincoln, will be able to connect, and that the agreement will last for 5 years, and then it'll be renewed annually. Very specific quotes. The city agrees that we will deliver renewable natural gas to a specific standard, which is jointly agreed upon by both parties. And if it doesn't, the renewable natural gas does not meet that standard, then Black Hills doesn't have to take it. So it's very much focused on safety. Black Hills is our local distribution transporter, meaning once we get the gas into their system, they will transport it to a buyer in some way, hopefully here in Lincoln. There's a transportation rate of 86 cents per million BTUs of gas. That's a lot of gas. And then there's a $300 per month charge, just a standard account charge. Finally, we have a franchise agreement. The franchise agreement, as you know, historically have been involved with, are the rules of the road for use of the public right-of-way. Gas, electric, water, sewer, storm, cable. This is the final franchise agreement to adopt the new standard, which started in 2013. So all of our franchises have the same standards now. Specifically, we wish the right-of-way looked like that beautiful picture. This is what actually happens when you have a 100-plus-year-old city. This is a picture from Omaha, actually out of the Omaha World Herald. We have some spots in downtown that look just like this. The changes in this agreement is 23 pages. The largest majority are construction standards and specifications that have been adopted by all of our franchisees. We've also updated the restoration standards. They are all the same. This is a 20-year agreement. The previous agreement was a 12-year agreement with an 8-year renewal. So it's the same thing, we just made it for 20 years. We believe, and I think Black Hills will support, that a very stable agreement, a long-term agreement, is good for both parties. And then we have made one change that is significant. We have changed the franchise fee calculation from a per foot of gas main installed to a gross revenue fee. This was our only per foot model back in the 1990s. That's when they adopted a per foot model. All of our other franchises are gross revenue. How does that change impact our customers? Very specifically, 90,000 residents in Lincoln have natural gas at their house. Their average bill is about $51 a month, and they will see an 86-cent per month increase. Commercial small volume, $2.96 per month increase. Commercial medium volume, there are 12 of those, $93 a month on a $3,200 bill. And commercial large volume, $258 a month. About 75 pages of documentation, largely focused on standards and specifications. We have Donna Garden with utilities, if you'd like to talk about RNG or specific construction standards for their system. Steve Huggenberger is here as well for legal questions. And then we have our Black Hills Steer team as well to discuss this.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Young? Yes.
I have just a clarifying question. So the 86 cents, that is the average of what the bill may go up per household, right?
Yeah.
So I just need like a little help for perception. What would be an example of a small volume, medium volume, and large volume business or commercial?
I think Black Hills can give you a better answer than that. I can give an answer, but I know they.
I just need something to like wrap my head around. You know what I mean?
Well, large volume would be, in my opinion, Black Hills can credit me, would be like the Purina plant out on 84th.
Okay.
Right? Huge facility. The concrete plant.
Gotcha.
Commercial medium volume, the city of Lincoln, the university, right? Multiple campuses, multiple sites, a lot of gas if you add it all together. And small volume, those are businesses.
Thank you so much.
Got one quick clarification. You're saying we're now at a gross revenue?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what we're
gross
proposing.
revenue is how the fee is calculated. So if gas prices go up, your fee will also go up. Correct. So this number here is just based off of today's gas prices.
It is.
Okay. So if the cost of natural gas goes up, we'll pay more in franchise fees.
Correct.
So the city will get more, okay. And this is just for businesses inside the city limits,
Businesses and residents, yes.
residents.
Yes.
So if there's a large user that wanted to, they could locate right outside of the city limits and not pay a franchise fee.
We just
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then the gross, and I can ask Black Hills, but the gross revenue is figured up just on the city, right? But they also serve outside the city limits. So they know, they can separate out the gross revenue just within the city limits.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Who else would like to come forward and speak on this?
Good catch.
Take this off. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brandy Johnson. I am a Lincoln resident, and I'm here, I'll lower that, I'm shorter, on behalf of Black Hills Energy. And I just want to express appreciation to all of you, as well as the staff that we've worked with on this agreement for many years. With me today, I have a couple of colleagues. So I have Jill Becker in Government Affairs, as well as Doug Law. He's our corporate counsel. Tremendous partner as we work through this. So I appreciate David's comments. I think he provided a good overview as well as some other information. So hopefully you have a good understanding of the three agreements. As it was mentioned, franchises are a very important thing for Black Hills. It gives us some reassurance that the city is going to be a long-term partner for us, just as we've been a long-term partner here in the city of Lincoln. So we've continued to operate under a previous agreement for several years now, and we're really pleased that we've come together with these three agreements. So just a little bit more, the franchise, again, it assures that we will continue to be a long-term partner. It spells out sort of the development and how we'll work together with the city. The RNG agreement, just as David stated, it's a transportation agreement, so that's going to allow us to connect the renewable natural gas that's produced there at Teresa Street with our system and then deliver it within our distribution and ultimately even farther than that. So we appreciate the support that we've had on that. The RNG, as he mentioned, we are also having the Innovative Energy Memorandum because we realize that as the city grows, as the renewable natural gas market and development and the just overall adoption of that, as we look to partnering on further environmental initiatives, we wanted to have another agreement that kind of spelled out that we would continue to work together in that way, whether it's, we partnered with the city already on the trolleys and buses, continuing to do things like that, as well as some upgrades we'll be doing within the city related to our metering infrastructure. And so we've got big plans in the city of Lincoln. We've done a lot here over the years, and we want to continue that. And then finally, I just wanted to answer any questions that you all might have. We stated several times now that partnership's extremely important for us. We serve 319 communities here in the state of Nebraska. I get the privilege to work with a lot of those, this definitely being our largest. It's really important that we continue to work together and continue to innovate and be operationally excellent together. So any questions? I know there was one previously, I think, Richard, you had asked around the different sizes or examples of businesses. So for the commercial small volume, that could be like a restaurant or something of that nature. The commercial medium volume could be something like a laundry or something where they're doing some sort of amount of processing or something involving heat. And then obviously the large volume commercial, those would be your industrial folks, your manufacturers here in town.
Yes, Councilman Christensen.
Thank you. No question, just comments. It's been a long time coming, and I want to thank Black Hills Energy for your patience and working with the city and arriving at what I think is a pretty good deal for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a comment also. I wanted to say thanks so much for suspending disconnections when the pandemic started, to have that quick response to really put the community first and to take that hit so our residents can worry about getting groceries and how to have money coming in. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for initiating that. I really appreciate it, and I won't forget it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that comment. Just a note that we are continuing to do that in accordance with the Public Service Commission's moratorium as well. And of course, I'll just take a moment and say that we encourage any customers that are having any issues to give us a call always so we can work with them.
Okay. Any other comments for her? Okay. Thank you for coming down. Appreciate
Thanks, everyone.
it. Anyone else would like to come up and speak on this item?
Thank you very much. Christopher Prosh, 620 North 48th Street. I am the Public Policy Director for the Lincoln Independent Business Association, and I do have a statement of opposition. Black Hills Energy has proven to be a good partner with the City of Lincoln by continuing to operate under the same terms as a franchise agreement that expired in 2015, not to mention investing $27 million in Lincoln infrastructure after the 2015 franchise agreement expired. It would seem they are doing their part to be a good partner with Lincoln. We see no reason to ask them to pass a 44% increase in franchise fee to the citizens of Lincoln. LIBA members met with the city officials and Black Hills Energy officials to consider the plan in further detail just a few days after learning of the joint effort, and were quite disappointed in the lack of transparency about the plan's impact on both the city budget and Lincoln households and businesses. While at first blush, one would think to applaud the city of Lincoln for not raising taxes during these difficult times. However, it appears that the city leaders are attempting to balance their budget on the backs of residents and businesses by increasing franchise fees on our utilities by 44%. To be clear, these fees are not paid by the utility, but rather passed on to the ratepayers. In essence, a tax increase on every household and business in Lincoln. The city of Lincoln has budgeted a $42 million increase in its budget over last year's budget. Part of this increase due to a 44% increase in franchise fee for ratepayers. This seems like this seems like for the wrong time to increase fees, especially since most business owners were not allowed to be open for the past 3 months, and when opened, may have only been able to operate at 50% capacity. To be clear, LIBA supports Black Hills Energy Corporation's continued efforts to invest and be a part of our community. However, any city action aimed at compelling individual conduct must be both thoughtful and measured to address the needs of the community without jeopardizing the stability of our household and business budgets to balance the city's budget. LIBA strongly encourages city officials and the city council to reconsider the details of the proposed plan. Until these important concerns are addressed and major changes to the plan are made, LIBA reluctantly cannot support this plan. LIBA simply cannot endorse an ordinance change that does not properly account for the following concerns. During a time of uncertainty for workers, business owners, and families, why increase their burden by 44%? Because of the uncertainty of our economy, this is simply not the time to raise prices. Keep in mind, it is not only the increase in residential prices that will impact families. It will be the increase of fees at places they shop and restaurants they patronize. The city budget process has promised no increases in taxes, yet the budget of the city grows by $42 million because valuations are going up, resulting in increased taxes on Lincoln taxpayers. Further adding to the tax burden of everyday Lincoln residents is the increase to their fees for natural gas as imposed by the city. Now is not the time to be balancing the city budget on the backs of the taxpayers and ratepayers for the utilities. We appreciate Black Hills Energy and their commitment to the city of Lincoln. We, however, do not support using a local utility company who has invested in jobs, infrastructure, and philanthropically to our community as a pawn to raise taxes on our local citizens during such a time of economic uncertainty. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Any questions? Seeing none. Anybody else would like to come forward and speak on this issue? Okay, seeing none, let's move on. Actually, end of our public hearing.
Don't move on.
Now we get to go into voting.
Okay, that ends our public hearing portion of our agenda. We can now move to our ordinances, third reading, and related resolutions.
More voting.
Item 8A is approving the Antelope Tower redevelopment agreement between Antelope Tower LLC and the city relating to the redevelopment of the property generally bounded by L Street, K Street, South Antelope Valley Parkway, and 20th Street, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson Raybold and seconded by Councilwoman Christensen. Any comments, thoughts, ideas?
He normally says it's a good thing. Is he going to say
Yeah,
that?
it's a good thing.
That's a good thing?
This is housing.
It's housing.
This is housing, yes.
Mm-hmm. No other comments? Please call the roll.
Washington?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 8B is amending the fiscal year 2019-2020 CIP to authorize and appropriate $2 million in TIF funds for the Antelope Tower redevelopment project generally bounded by L Street, K Street, South Antelope Valley Parkway, and 20th Street, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Washington?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 8C is authorizing the issuance of tax allocation bonds for the Antelope Tower redevelopment project in an amount not to exceed $2 million, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 8D is amending sections 2.18.020 and 2.18.030 of the LMC relating to purchasing division to amend the threshold modifications and addition of service reference to correspond with the approved charter changes, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilman Christensen. Any comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay.
Resolutions, first reading is items 9A through 9I. Ordinances, first readings, and related resolutions is items 10A and 10B. We have a pending list, items 11A through 11E.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
At the request of the applicant, I would like to move that items 11A and B be put on the agenda for hearing and action on the 20th, which will be our next meeting.
Wow.
Do I hear a
I
second?
need a second, please, somebody.
Seconded.
Okay. Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
I move adjournment.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Please call the roll.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you, everyone.
We are.